It's Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. Sorry, it's a couple minutes late. It's been interesting, and we're going to go over why. With lots of volatility in the market, different things going on in the world that impacts our markets. So let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and pull some stuff up on the background, on the green screen action, and go from there. So let's see. Where are we going to start off today? Well, we had our first of the job information that came out this week. ADP kind of touching on some of the information. And I subscribe to MBS Highway. If you're a loan officer, if you're in real estate, MBS Highway is a fantastic tool to help keep you current with the market so that you can communicate this stuff to agents and to clients, your partners, and make sure that you're keeping them up to date because there's so much information being shared online that is just not accurate, especially with different news outlets. And they're like, oh, this is this and this and this, and it's always the sky falling. So let me move my head out the way so you can see what this is and screenshot it. I always like to back my information up with data so that you have the information. You're an informed consumer, informed professional. This also helps give you some information on what you should be sharing with your clients' calls. Because today, what are you doing on Wednesday? What are you doing? Today is a great day to make calls. Hey, where do rates need to be if you've been on the fence? So let me move my head out the way and kind of go over this information with you. All right. So ADP came out, giving us some information. There was expectations of a certain job numbers that were going to be reported, which was expecting about 128,000. So it came in at 143,000, a little bit better than they expected, which means there's volatility and there was a little bit of a hit to a rate. It sucks that the Fed and the way investors are looking at is rates will get better when jobs market is not as solid. It is what it is. That strike that's going on, I side with laborers. I had this conversation earlier with some people, but the longshoremen, when billionaires are getting pissy about regular people wanting to make a little bit more money per hour, it drives me crazy. And they're like, and also the automation that they're worried about. Yeah, we need to protect our people's jobs and pay them. Billionaires are raking in crazy profits, taking 1.7 trillion. This is important. But let's talk about the ADP report. And some of the stuff is estimations, but you can see what percentage of industries added to their jobs. Small businesses was 8,000 less. So small businesses aren't as strong as others, which we know this. We see this. Stayers are getting a little bit less for their year over year increases on wages. Switchers are getting a little less when they switch and if you compare it to the lowest it's been since 2021, we can see that there is volatility in the job market. It isn't as strong as some are making it out to be, but it is strong and it's causing investors to be leery of what's going on. So let's go ahead and pull up the other information. I want you guys informed so that you're not getting misled. So what is happening in the market? So this is showing you the UMBS 30-year 5.5% coupon, which is what everybody's trading on. And what the bond market price is, which is 101.23 when I took this screenshot. And I want to show you kind of since July what it's been doing. So as you can see, as the higher this number, the lower the rates. We are in a good positive trend, but over the last few weeks since the Fed fund rate decision, we've had it come down a little bit, about 50 basis points. Some of that is due because the Fed, there was already 25 basis points factored in to the mortgage rates before the Fed made their decision. So afterwards, the market normalized. But also with different things that are going around the country, there is some volatility, and the 10-year Treasury's up some, and I'll show you some of that. But as you can see, that's why I like to talk to people about this, because it's important. When you're talking about interest rates and you're getting inundated with refinance offers right now, is it the time to do it? Maybe. You need to talk to a loan officer who cares more about the relationship than their immediate commission, and that's rare. And that's why you got to make phone calls and talk to them and interview them and get some information there. But let's look at the 10-year Treasury. And so you can see the lower this number, the lower the rates. And what's happened since July, we've seen it continue to go down on a trend, but it is on an upward trend right now, again, since middle of September. This is what it is. But when you track the 10-year Treasury and the 10-year Treasury and the yield spread, this is where you're going to start to see where rates are and why they're coming down. There's more yield in this and the premium And so that means that there's more enticement for the investors. But why is this important? Why do I share this stuff? And move my head out the way so you can screenshot it. Because I want you having the data instead of just some random dude on the internet telling you to freaking what rates are doing. Because I'm a mortgage loan officer here in Texas, and I've helped about 2,000 families over the last 10 years. But I want to empower people to know what they're doing and be informed consumers. And the only way to do that is to provide you the information so that you are informed and not just hearing it from some dude. Do your own research. BLS.gov, fantastic. This tool is fantastic. It's a Fed rate tracker. You can see the next decision's coming up in November. And you can see the probability of what people are thinking, what the cut is going to be and what the rate is going to be. This is important because a lot of this stuff is just speculation. And so when you're doing a lot of speculation in your data, there's volatility and it's okay. But this is where you need to know and track it. So you're not trying to time buying for the lowest possible rate, because doing that, sometimes you can miss opportunities versus understanding where the market's at, locking in, getting into a house, refinance later. But right now, having this in place is going to help you protect your long-term generational wealth, because it's one of the key factors to building it. And part of that, I show this on my live, you can screenshot it. This home price appreciation data since 1942. So I'm not just telling you stuff because it sounds cool. I'm telling you this stuff so that you understand what's going on, so you're not getting taken advantage of by those same corporations that are investing billions into the single family residential market. I think that they have no business there. You want to be in in commercial or multifamily, great. But billionaires should not be investing in mass in single family residence, in my opinion. But here's what home price appreciation has done since 1942. Yeah, home prices went down in 2007 through 11, and I'll show you why. And one time in 1990. But do you know that interest rates in the 80s were near 20%? What did home prices do? Home prices in 2023 went up 6%. Right now, they're on trend for doing about the same in 2024. Homes are one of the key pillars to building that long-term generational wealth, because if you're paying rent, you're paying a mortgage. It's just not your own. I like to show this data because stuff is so important. Did you look at this? Why is 2007 and 11 through that time period different than right now? It's this right here. Housing completions versus formations. Formations, people leaving the nest, going out and starting a new family, growing a family. That's what a formation is. Typical age of a first-time home buyer is 33. Wish it was younger, but it is what it is. The orange chart is completions. So what happened in 2006 and 7? The most amount of homes completed ever. Versus, look at what the formations did. Yeah, exactly. There were way less formations than completions. So you had way more supply than there was demand. But look what started happening around 2015. The opposite, it flipped. Now you have more formations than there are completions, causing an inventory shortage. But when you combine that with the fact that private equity and hedge fund companies are buying up tons of real estate, they're not buying it and selling it like a normal regular person, right? Because the average home buyer is in their home 3 to 6 years. So that home is coming back to the market, increasing supply typically, but they're buying to hold. So there's even less when you're looking at completions from builders. And when there's strikes and different costs, they reduce the amount of homes that are being built, increasing the demand, reducing the supply, and we have the prices that go up like crazy, like what we saw in 2020, where it went up freaking 19%, 10%, in the 2021, 19%. So if we're not getting ahead of this, we're going to be in a world of hurt. It's great for the people who own and great for people who can afford it. But I'm on this live not just for the people who can afford it. TikTok is really in essence, designed for younger generation. I want to get in front of people as early as possible to get them to start being interested in home ownership so they can build their long-term generational wealth earlier in life. Because if I could go back in time, I'm 41 years old. If I could go back to 20, 21 years old, I'm telling you what I would do right now. Because look at this. 20 years ago, look at where homes were 20 years ago, right? We're looking at 2024, right? 14% increase, but there was a little decrease. But if I could go back then, I would have bought a fourplex, stayed in one of the units for 12 months, then went and bought another fourplex, then another fourplex. And even when the market started going down, I would have still bought a fourplex every year after staying in the home 12 months and living in one side and renting out the other 3, building my door total so that by the time I'm here today, because time's going to pass whether we like it or not, it's, are you doing the things today that are going to make sure that you achieve your goals in the future? And homeownership is one of those pillars. If you're paying rent right now, you are paying a mortgage, it's just not your own. So let's talk about it. Put it in the comments. Thank you everybody who's joining, but I want to talk to you. If you think I'm BS, put it there. Let's talk about it. Let's, this is what this is for. But I want to show you some of this information because it's important data. This is what interest rates were doing in the 80s and the 70s. Look at that, near 20%. And this is prime rates. This isn't for regular people. This is prime rates. Where it is now, the average rates are between 5 and 8 and 10% anyway, if you look at the majority of the time. There's a small period of time for 10 years where rates were under 5 for prime rates. But look at what home prices were doing. But this is the part that really drives me nuts sometimes when I'm talking to people, because they're looking at, like, this is the rates, what rates were when you look at it right here for car loans. When car loan average rates are up in 10 and 15%, and people are worried, and that's a depreciation, it's a depreciating liability versus an appreciating asset, but nobody's complaining about that. And here's credit cards. Their rates are up near 20% now, 26%. So, and where there's $1 trillion in credit card debt right now. This is important to know so that you are building long-term generational wealth instead of someone else's. Because again, home price appreciation data since 1942. I'm bringing you facts. Something to consider. A lot of people say, man, my parents were lucky in the 80s to buy a house when it was $100,000. Well, if the rate was 20% in 1980 for a $100,000 house, that's the same as having a $300,000 house with a 7% rate. The payment's the same. So it's not about luck, because luck, and I didn't say this, I think it was Seneca, and it's an amalgamation of that. Luck is the intersection between preparation and opportunity. I want people to be prepared for the opportunity right now that's presenting. Because as the demand is a little less right now, because people are worried about the market and housing, this is the opportunity where sellers are giving credits. Sellers are giving concessions. They're paying for temporary buy downs, which we will not see as much when rates do continue to fall. Because every 1 point drop in rate brings another 2 to 3 million buyers back to the market, increasing prices 2 to 4%. So as rates continue to come down, we're going to see more people enter the market again, increasing those prices. So let's just say a 1 point drop in rate saves you $200 a month in your payment. That's a pretty good amount, right? 200 times 12 is $2,400. But if we look at these numbers here, appreciation data, if you buy a $300,000 house and it goes up 10% in that year, let's just say for this year, 5%. So $15,000. Would you rather save $2,400 or make $15,000? Don't jump over dollars to pick up nickels. Make the money. This is why the information campaign from the billionaires who are investing in property is telling you that there's going to be a crash, because they're wanting to buy up all the inventory, because the smart investors are still buying. The smart people are still buying right now. They're dissuading first-time home buyers and move-up buyers to go ahead and rent another year or two. Well, let me just talk to you about the people that decided, that I've worked with in 2020, are like, I'll put it off a year or two to rent. And average rents in North Texas are over $2,000 a month. So let's go back to that $300,000 purchase, and we're going to pretend it's 2019 going into 2020, $300,000. They go in and buy that. They decide to rent for $2,000 a month. So that's $2,400 per year that they just spent renting. But they missed 10% appreciation. So that's $30,000 that year. And then that home is now $330,000. And then they missed another 19% appreciation, which at that point, at another 20%, you're talking another $66,000. So in 2 years, by renting, trying to save a little money, they cost themselves about $90,000 in opportunity costs from missed appreciation growth, and spent $24,000 in that year times 2, 50,000, add 50,000 to the 93,000, you're over $140,000 in opportunity cost by waiting 2 years. Why are people falling farther and farther behind? Because they are listening to misinformation campaigns on social media and on Yahoo News and other places that are like, oh, there's going to be a housing crisis. There's going to be a bubble, and I'll show you because you can go on YouTube and you can see all this stuff. NAR settlement, drama, everything is rage, bait, and clicking, right? Here's this. This was stuff that was going into 2022 and 2023. There's going to be a crash. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. Home prices went up 6% in 2023, the highest rates we saw since the 80s. They're already on trend to do about the same in 2024, and rates are but 2% better than they were in 2023. So that's why I'm on this app. I'm trying to help people spend my time doing this because why? I always say this on my lives. Who profits from your fear? Who benefits the most from your fear? Because this is something that's important. And I focus on this in training agents on emotional intelligence because I'll be honest with you, up until 12 years ago, I was the emotional intelligence of a potato. I was fun until I wasn't. Then I started investing in my emotional intelligence, going to therapy and understanding state management. And when you're in a sales position, this is huge because look at what happens to your functioning IQ as you get into a fear and terror state. Where are most people in our country right now? Who benefits from when people are that afraid? Keep that in mind because the same group of people are the ones that own the media outlets that want us in a fear state because then we are not questioning, hey, how come billionaires are worried about regular people wanting to make a little bit more money per hour? They raked in at 1.7 trillion over the last few years, adding that to their net worths collectively. And regular people lost about 1.5 trillion over that time period. So they took from us. And that's why I'm on here because I don't want to see anybody else missing out on money. When you have equity in homes, it's power. There's the most amount of equity in homes we've seen in our nation's history. Keep in mind, who profits from your fear? Functioning IQ goes down. Can't think about things. Your processing of information changes. And that's why you have to look at this. Study this stuff. Look at it. Where's your processing from? We're great. We have metacognition. We have the ability to think about our thoughts. Go into these things. Who profits from your fear? Because this is an important factor in this. What's in our control? We can control how we act, react, and communicate. Everything outside of our control is what the media wants us to focus on, but that's not going to fix anything right now. We need to be talking with each other and seeing who is the potential threat, who benefits from our fear, who benefits. Why is everything turned into rage bait? Why is the media and the news no longer about learning and teaching and growing and truth? It's about engagement and clicks. Who benefits from that? Corporations, 1%, the ones that want that activation. Because if you're activated, now you're going to go a little deeper. You're going to stay on that website a little longer. And that's unfortunate. But we're going to get you in control because I'm going to teach you this information because when you have the information, you understand what's going on so you can take control back. I don't like being out of control. So when I know that something is controlling me or potentially, I'm like, not today. So we're going to fix this. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are the same mindset. They don't want to be controlled by anything. They want to be informed. This is how you do it. But you need to know where BLS.gov. St. Louis Fed, look them up. You can look up a ton of data for free. But nobody's telling you this. Why? Here are some of the economic reports that are coming out this week that are going to drive the market. Today we had ADP payroll change. This was important. But we got important information coming for the rest of the week. Unemployment claims, continuing claims. And then, of course, on the 4th, we have that information on Friday. But think about this. Some of this unemployment is going to be impacted, which could help the market potentially, even though it's devastating and horrible. But what's going on with the hurricanes? A lot of those people are no longer employed because there's no the buildings got wiped away. So that's going to increase the unemployment rates. But that's where we have to be smart and do the research ourselves to see what other implications could this have. Well, don't let the media twist it like, oh, if this and this, well, the job market's just trash. We just seen a huge part of the coast get wiped out because of global warming and the frequency of storms changing from a regular storm to a huge hurricane because water temperatures are real. Science is real, people. Study this stuff so that you are not getting jacked around by people who do not care about you. Let me pull up another slide so that you have it. Let's just put my information in the background so people can see it too, because I want them to be able to connect with me and go from there. But I'll screenshot this. Don't worry if you come in late to the live. You can always go back to my YouTube channel and watch my content there. Again, also, I want to share with people, look at our new cat. He's so cute. He's a Scottish fold. Monica crushed on this deal. After our cat passed away, it was a pretty big hit to us, and we were both just devastated. And Monica's always wanted an orange cat, and she found this beautiful little gem. We're working on names. We're thinking Nico maybe, but look how adorable this little guy is. Yeah, sorry, distracted for important reasons, but yeah, let's get back to mortgage. Let me see. Also, events that I do. This is a private invite only group, but this is amazing. Bob and his wife Vera are phenomenal. They own Peak Square Ventures, and they have a wealth mastery event that we do every second Tuesday. And the guest speaker is Jason Kim this month on the 8th. It's going to be awesome. Look at this. It's up at my office. And if you want more information, email me and I'll see about getting you on the list. I think we're already booked, but this is going to be an amazing event. I like to put on events for my partners, investors, and clients that add value to them. And so I've partnered with Vera and Bob with Peak Square Ventures, and we bring out amazing speakers. This month's speaker, Jason Kim, is a beast. Like, go look him up. He's an amazing investor. His story is awesome, and go from there. But again, just to summarize, ADP and employment report. This is what came out today. Screenshot it. There's volatility in the job market. We're adding some jobs, but we're about to see some of these corrected, but it doesn't get corrected until next month. Later in the week, some reports get updated more frequently, but the big reports like JOLTS and all that, we're not going to see that update till next month. And the impacts of these recent hurricanes. And this is important. If you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm here to answer. Just talk about the market, talk about the strike going on. Again, I side with workers and not the billionaires. I think that they've made enough, and it's okay for regular people to get paid. And I want regular people to make their money. How do I get this out of here? Let me see. There we go. Back to the regular. So thank you everyone who's joining. If you've got questions, put it in the comments. My name's Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer. Been doing this 10 years. Helped about 2,000 families with their home investment journey. And I want to make sure as many people get information as soon as possible so that they can be informed consumers and make a buying or refinancing decision, especially with what's going on in the market and the misinformation campaigns and the fact that people don't know this, but your data is for sale. And I hate that. There is people that are fighting with regulators to get that fixed because the credit unions, sorry, I got to bring up another freaking green screen because I got to show you this information. It's nuts. I have it over here so that you can get away from it because like Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, they sell your data. It's gross. And there's a way to get out of that. I'm going to show you this right here. Optoutprescreen.com is a fantastic tool to use to get out of those pre-screened offers and junk mailers. You can do it online and get out electronically. But if you go to their website and you do the print option, you can remove your junk mail from getting mailed to your house too, which is a huge value add. Look at some of this wording on the advertisements at TransUnion, like industries we serve, right? And they have like this proactive model to get ahead of regulations. And it's like, this is creepy, but you can report spam text to this number, screenshot it. I don't like people getting inundated with stuff because when you apply for a mortgage, when we run your credit, there's it's called trigger leads. So Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, they sell that data to creepy mortgage companies that don't invest in relationships, and they give it to their call center LOs to text and be like, oh, we just got a notification that your application came in, pretending like they are working with the same company you actually applied with. And it's BS. It happened to my sister and she was livid and she knew about it and she was like, But that's why I like to share this stuff because again, you have companies like this that are selling your data. I want to make sure I give you the tools to get out of it. So creepy. How is that? See what I'm saying right there? Changing regulations. So they're trying to get ahead of it. They're the ones that are over here scouring and collecting data, aggregating data to sell it. All of our stuff is a commodity and it's disgusting. Save this too, optoutprescreen.com. Go to the website, opt out. You won't get any more junk mail or calls. It's awesome. I use it myself and I haven't had any problems with mailers and junk mail cluttering up my mailbox. But again, like I said, I like to inform the clients and people that follow me so that they're empowered and not getting jacked around by skeevy, creepy, sales tactics. But yeah, if you have questions, put it in the comments. Thank you everyone who's joined my live. I'll always post these on my YouTube channel, which the links are in my bio, on my page there, so that you can go back and look at it, because this stuff's important. Not a lot of people ever get a chance to talk to a loan officer and somebody who's done it as often as I have, who has a different perspective. Like, I'm not the fingered guns sales guy. I'm an operations guy. I like to know the guidelines. I want to know the information so that I can bring you the information and let you make an informed decision. And that's what's important. Let's see. You applied. I haven't seen that app come through, but I'm happy to talk with them even before they apply to make sure they feel comfortable and confident doing it. But everybody should feel welcome to do the application. The link to my website is in my bio. But yeah, I'm here to help and answer questions, whether you use me or not. Again, you can get on my calendar, because I have the link on my Calendly, just to have a consultation and I'll answer questions. If you've got questions, put it in the comments. If you think the housing market is BS and it's the worst decision, let's talk about it, because I have personal lived experience outside of professional experience. I buy and sell property myself, and I love it. It's one of the fastest ways to accumulate wealth. I talk about this all the time. My first house, I bought it. We lived in it 2 years, sold it, made a ton of money, went and bought another one. Lived in it a few years, sold it, bought another one. This house, hopefully we're in it for long term. But how many people can stay in a house or can save 300 grand in 3 years? It's hard. But when you buy a property and you are in it for the right timing and you manage your equity position and you watch the markets, I have a client that just moved to LA. They bought their house in 2019, like at the end of 2019, for like $357,000. They sold it for almost 700 grand last year, at the end of last year, to go move to LA. So they got to put 300 grand in their pocket before moving, because they bought a house and they were on the fence. Like, maybe we should just rent because we're not sure if we're going to move to LA. I was like, buy now. Don't wait, because as you're making your payment, you're creating equity 2 ways. 1, force savings through principal balance reduction. And 2, you're getting it through appreciation. And I showed you the slide with the appreciation data since 1942. But thank you for everyone who's joined. Again, I'm Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer. Been doing this 10 years. I've helped about 2,000 families with their home investment journey in that time period. Love what I do. I also buy and sell my own property and real estate. Love it. So I'm here to answer questions. If you want to talk about buying and investing in residential real estate, multifamily, I'm in a private equity group, a venture capital group, and I want to answer your questions. Talk about the market, especially the impacts of what's coming with the strike with the longshoremen, because I, again, am on the side of the workers. I know it's going to impact the economy. I know it's going to raise prices, which might increase inflation, which is going to have an impact on mortgage rates. But sometimes we have to make a stand collectively as people and say enough is enough. Corporations who are making billions in profit, pay your people better. And some people are like, well, I only get paid $30 an hour. These people want to get paid $70 an hour. Okay, great. Your union rep should be fighting for you to get higher wages. These billionaires can't afford it. And I had this discussion in a chat the other day, because this person's like, well, this guy, they're making this and this, they want $70 an hour. I was like, great, why not? And he's like, well, the person who's in charge of the union makes 780 grand a year. I said, that's good. But to a billionaire, it would take you about 1,300 years to make even 1 billion at $780,000 a year. So I'm not going to be mad at regular people trying to get more money from billionaires. And billionaires are different than millionaires. It's a totally different ballgame. Millionaires are poor to billionaires. And some of these billionaires have 100 billion plus, 256 billion. These people can afford to pay. And they're talking about, it's not just about their pay, it's about protections from automation. And automation and technology is great, but it has to be scalable and it cannot be at the detriment to people. And so If there is plans for automation, how about the union negotiate some opportunities for cross training in preparation and put timelines before automation takes over so that the people that are there have a job to do when automation does take place. And so that's why I'm telling you that I'm on the side of the people. If you have a different opinion, put it in the comments. Let's talk about it because I get where people are frustrated. It's like, man, this is going to hurt the economy. Yeah, it might hurt a little bit, but we can tighten it together and fight together to get this stuff changed. And that's what they don't like about these apps. They don't like that these apps allow us to talk to each other, come together, have good discussion, and see different perspectives. Again, that person thought it was wrong for them to be fighting and thought that the reason why they're fighting is the $780,000 guy was being greedy. But he is fighting for his people. If you have questions, put it in the comments. But again, I'm for workers. I want them to make as much as they can make because again, billionaires can afford it. If maybe they make 900 million this year instead of 1 billion. Aw, anybody gonna play the smallest fiddle for him? Like 900? How can you spend 900 million? And it's profit. That's after paying their expenses. And some of them are making way more than a billion in profit. When you're seeing some of these oil and gas industries that are making 50, 60 billion a quarter profit, you got to look at their earnings statements. People, please, Jesus, go online and start looking this stuff up yourself. Go online to bls.gov. Go to the websites and start looking at earnings statements. The PCE producer, the PPI reports, producer price index, the CPI, consumer price index. There's so many important reports that we can look at, but even go in and look at the earnings statements for the big oil and gas company, Chevron. When they're making record profits and they're talking about, oh, this and that, we're raising prices and they'll have a random oil fire, this is manipulating the economy for political ends. And if we get ahead of it and we share the information, they can no longer manipulate us into fear. Because again, who profits from our fear? We already addressed this earlier, what it does to our cognitive abilities. And the way we overcome this is through education and information and having these discussions so that you can see it from a different perspective. Because there's a lot of people out there that don't have the information. And that's okay. It's okay to be ignorant. It's not okay to be willfully and intentionally ignorant after information is presented. And you don't want cognitive bias. Don't go to Facebook to find your information. Go directly to the source. Go to bls.gov, Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Go to the St. Louis Fed's website, and you'll see you can aggregate all this data yourself and look at it. They have the reports. It comes out in PDF. It's amazing. But again, if you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm here to talk. This is important information. If you're renting, how much are you paying rent right now? Let's talk about it. Let's get some renters up. Put it in the comments. If you want to join my live and have some questions and just chit chat, let me know. I'm not doing battles or whatever the crap that was back in the day. That's not it. But I'm happy to just have conversations and answer it. I don't know how it works, but if you send me a request, I'll look at it and pop you up. But yeah, thank you for those who are joining. I'm happy to answer questions. My name, if you haven't heard, is Ron Toy, the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer. Doing about 10 years, helped about 2,000 families with their home investment journey. I'm here to empower people to make a buying or refinancing decision, overcome some of these fears so they have that power to make a decision. Again, home prices continue to go up. Why? It's not rocket science. It's supply and demand. Homes are a stable place to hedge against inflation as well. You buy the house at today's prices using today's money, and as inflation continues up, because the Fed has a target inflation rate of 2% every year. That's crazy. I don't know why they just have reserved themselves to coming up with this 2% number. It's antiquated. We don't need that. But it is what it is. We have to define reality the way it is and not the way we want it to be, but we can fight and work for the way we want it to be. Right now, it is what it is. That's the biggest empowerment I can give you, is getting you to see where we're at, where things are going, and go from there. But again, what's happening in the market right now? A lot of people were like, why have rates gone up a little bit? Or what is this? There's going to be volatility. Yes, the Fed cut the Fed fund rate. You saw all these realtors all of a sudden start talking about interest rates all over the place. And it was a way for them to get some activation in data and potential communication with people, but they did a disservice because the rates for mortgages didn't necessarily go down. Yes, the Fed fund rate cut their Fed fund rate, but the market had already baked in 25 basis point cut weeks in advance. And so what has happened since the Fed fund rate decision? Rates have actually gotten a little worse because the market has corrected. Now the rebound isn't going to be a straight line. It is going to continue to get better, but things happen. And that's why you want to have these conversations with your loan officer. Interview the loan officers, talk to them, ask them questions. It's why I show you on every live the coupon and highlight the information so that when you're asking a loan officer, hey, when you get this rate, what is the bond market price that this rate is attached to? What is the coupon? So that when you call me at a different time and ask that question, I can make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Again, empowering people to make a buying or refinancing decision is so important. That's what I'm here to do, and give you the tools and the questions to ask when you do make those phone calls. It's important. Oh, I got somebody who says a guest. Let's see. All right, I'll accept. You're always on my live, and it's so nice. How are you doing today?
Okay, this is a bit scary because this is the first time I'm doing this. Well,
Look at that. You overcome that. And I appreciate people doing things that make them afraid.
yeah. I guess you had like I kind of feel bad too because you have like every time I come on the live, if we have interesting conversations and there's like nobody and like
It's okay.
watching, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's okay.
yeah. So
But how is your
yeah.
family
Sorry.
doing? How's everything going?
Okay, okay. Well, we have well, one member of my family kind of lost his job, so that's fun to deal with.
Yep. What do they
Uh,
do?
Software engineering,
Got it. Software engineer. Where are they at?
New Jersey. Not the ideal place for it,
Got it.
but
Yeah, there's some cool
uh,
things if they're struggling to find a replacement job that they can visit. I know I've talked about it on my lives before too, but it's called BNI, Business Networking International. But they have probably meetings in their town to where they can go and just go to a breakfast and let them know, hey, I'm in this market, this industry. Recently was laid off, and I'm looking for employment. And I guarantee you, someone in that group knows somebody and will be able to help them.
okay,
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll thanks for the advice. I'll think about it. I don't know
Absolutely.
how I don't know how I sound on the live right now. I can't but
And
yeah,
I'll message you the information as well too, so we don't forget.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's, yeah, I don't know how, like, I guess the job market was back, I guess when you started or anybody older starting, but for like my generation and younger, it's crap.
It's tough out
Um,
there.
because now I found out they have like these ghost jobs where
Yep.
like they'll pretend to hire people, but then like you don't hear back from them for a long time.
Yep.
And it's because they're using it to threaten their employees to let
Yep.
them go.
Isn't
And
that
that's
crazy?
wild. That's wild,
It's
dude.
absolutely wild. That's why I always side with workers and laborers in any kind of discussion, because it is a manipulation. They're like, "Oh, I've got job openings," and that makes the people that are working there scared, like their job might be at risk. And it's a way for them to control and manipulate people, and I hate it.
Yeah.
How's your
When
job
like my dad
going?
started. Oh, it's okay. I just at school right now
Mhm.
because you know it does make the job searching a little bit easier when you have a degree. Not
Right.
a whole lot, but a little bit.
Yep.
Um, and then I also like I did work at Starbucks. That
That's
was too
good.
much, and I kind of had a I did the very risky thing, and I asked like Thorne about it too, of like pulling like the stocks that they gave me in retirement and stuff out of Starbucks because I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna crash soon.
Right.
So I asked them about it, and they were like, yeah. I asked like a couple people who like about it, and like even my guides are like, yeah, that's like you have to pull your money out because they're gonna crash.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah, so I quit. I was at Starbucks, but I quit.
Uh-oh, I think you're
There was too much drama.
right. Well, you got to focus on your school and education. I know that can be stressful, but you're doing the right thing. Study, but what industry are you wanting to go in after you're done school?
But
Are you
uh,
there?
oh,
Uh-oh, I think it's your connection.
so I'm studying psych, but let me see. Is this
Oh, awesome.
okay? Is this better?
It's a little bit better,
This
yes.
is my yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Cool.
This is yeah. I think it's probably like no Wi-Fi in like
Oh, good.
this.
But you're studying psychology?
I'm going to is not good.
But you're studying psychology? Is that what you're going to school for?
Little pharmaceuticals.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Are you wanting
yeah.
to be a
That's
therapist,
what
like
I'm
a
going to school
psychologist
for.
or a
Kind of wanted to
psychiatrist when
do.
you get out?
I have you know, just give me the
It's
network.
breaking up.
Hold on.
It's all good.
Oh, shoot. Okay. You know what? Let's see. Yeah. I so yeah, that's my anyway, so yeah, I wanted to do therapist, but I'm not so sure. I
A good thing I would suggest, I have a couple clients that are therapists, but have you had a chance to interview a couple to see what they would do differently?
pharmaceuticals or oh I no. Actually no.
It'd be a solid thing
I
I would
have not.
suggest is to
Um
like interview people that are doing the job you think you want and see what they would suggest or what they would do differently before getting into the field and maybe avoid any of the common pitfalls that are in that industry.
okay, yeah. I yeah, I actually yeah, that sounds like a good idea. If I do go to therapy, I like grief, either grief or addiction, usually.
Yeah,
So I don't know anybody who does that personally, but
right. But interview your
yeah,
own
but
therapist and ask them, be like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting into this field. What would you give me for tips and suggestions as I, you know, continue through my educational process?"
yeah, yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I think
Yeah, that's
that
that's
that's going to be a big industry, especially as we move forward, because the stigma of talking about mental health and struggles is coming down drastically, which I love. And as that continues to come down, the stigma of talking to a therapist is going to go away and lead to way more people investing in their emotional intelligence and their recovery and healing. And I think that it's a good industry to be in.
yeah, that's yeah, that's true, and I think I yeah, that's true. And I think somebody like I think I hear like a lot of like sort of mentions and people things about like how like there needs to be more like sort of like more diverse people in the psych in the mental health field and
Yes.
probably as well as the housing field because a lot of because psychology, like any other science, has been like sort of dominated by, no offense, by like white men for a very
Yes.
long time, and a lot of the studies were done on white men.
Yep.
And I was telling like well, I was telling like one of my psych professors that like a lot of the studies that we know about ADHD and autism were done on white men. They weren't
Yeah.
necessarily done on anybody else.
Yep.
So that's why like a lot of the people who like should be evaluated for autism and ADHD, they don't necessarily get that diagnosis
hmm
because the diagnostic criteria was based on white men.
Yep. And that is such a misfortunate situation, because think about how great our country would be right now if we actually took care of and took things seriously for women and people of color in different communities instead of just pushing that aside.
Um, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And especially like the symptomology of like ADHD and like autism, it presents itself differently in women and like non-binary people
Yep.
and people of color. It and because it presents itself differently, it doesn't they either get misdiagnosed or they don't get diagnosed at all.
Yep. It's sad,
So
especially women. You find
yeah,
out
it is.
that they're better at masking certain things, which is so sad. And they get
Yeah.
misdiagnosed or not diagnosed till later in life, and it's unfair.
Yeah, because a lot of women, they don't, as far as like ADHD, they don't necessarily, the hyperactivity part, I read they don't necessarily have that as much as men do. It's more of like the inattentive, um, what you call the inattentive part of it.
Right?
That and the diagnostic criteria, the old diagnostic criteria claims that you need to have the hyperactivity parts for there to be an ADHD or ADD diagnosis, but that's not what ADHD or ADD is.
No, but I expect nothing less from mediocre white dudes, you know. And yes, I'm in the group of white dudes, but like that's why I fully support as many women getting into the STEM fields and everything as possible, because that's when things are really going to change. And in my industry, I really like women that are in this because men have done a horrible job at taking advantage of every position of power that's ever been in history. And so think about all the ladies that would go to therapy trying to get help, and a man took advantage of them.
Yeah, actually, yeah, actually that's what Dr. Phil did, I believe.
Of course, yeah, I wouldn't put it.
That's what
Yeah,
Dr.
he
Phil
fits the
did.
description.
That's what he did. And what's
Yep.
stupid is that the reason why he can't get even if you were to bring it up to the APA, he can't necessarily get investigated or prosecuted because he never renewed his license.
Yeah.
So if
Lame.
you don't, that's very sneaky. So if you don't do that, then you're not gonna, the APA is not gonna care
Yep.
if you don't renew your license. I'm sure. I guess in like mortgage and real estate, it's the same thing. I guess.
Yeah, you have to be
I don't.
licensed. It's a bunch of stuff that goes into it, but they will not play on this business. They will fine you and put you in jail. It's a great protection, but I know that like I like to have a good group of people around me, because sometimes people are in a sensitive spot, like through a divorce. They don't want to talk to a guy. They want to talk to a lady. That's great. Talk to somebody that you feel comfortable with. And the same thing in psychology. Like, you don't want to talk to somebody that might potentially be a trigger. And I'm so happy that you're going into that field. Don't let anyone dissuade you. Even if someone's like, oh, it's hard for them. But if you're coming from a different perspective, it's hard to do anything in this life. But if it's worth it to you, then you'll invest in it, and you are going to help change people's lives. And especially with your own lived experience and what you've been through as a person is going to help you be that better of a therapist or a psychologist, psychiatrist, whichever direction you go, and impact people. So don't let anyone tell you for any reason that you can't do what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That kind of gives me a bit of a like a confidence boost and that
Absolutely.
sort of thing. I kind of, I actually, now that I think about it, I kind of wanted to ask, like, would that also, like, what are your like sort of thoughts on like, I don't know if I asked you this before. What are your thoughts on like gentrification and why it keeps happening? Like, or
Well,
why this state
yeah,
agents are so quick to like take over like poor people's house and just like
it's
what?
scary in my opinion, and I hate it. But what ends up happening, it's kind of a cumulative effort by a bunch of different industries that are also usually run by white creepy dudes. And in essence, what they do is they over police an area, which drives down the property values. They start putting in payday check cash in places, liquor stores, all the things that increases crime. And then they say these properties are now worth next to nothing. So it's a long play. Then you have, Sally. Becky, Karen with their Starbucks and Uggs come in and say, we're going to fix this and we're going to invest. We're going to buy all these homes from all of these people who've lived here for a long period of time at drastically low dollars, 20, 30, $40,000, put in these crazy mansions and different things. And now the properties are worth 700 to a million. We sell this in my area in South Dallas and different areas in Dallas, Trinity Grove, where those places were historically overpoliced. The properties were in the areas were not invested in businesses, and the property values went to nothing. And then miraculously, and businesses started to invest again and pushing out certain demographics because nobody was going in there and telling them, hey, if you refinance and you do an equity loan or construction, you could fix your house up and make this money. Nobody's telling them. They were just allowing people to go in. We buy houses in cash, and people getting their homes taken away from them for nothing, and then seeing flippers go in and make all of the profit. So do I like it where somebody can go in and invest in their home and make money? I love that. I don't like it when it's gentrification in a sense where it's collective effort to go in and push certain families away and build it up. And then because what that also does is it increases the tax rate. So like say Nana and Grandpa bought that house in the 40s and they don't want to sell, but they haven't had the net money to fix it, and their property values, get stuck. But then potentially their property taxes are going up because now the land is worth more, and if they don't have the right exemptions in place, they end up getting priced out of the home just through property taxes. Or they lose the home because they have a property tax lien, and then you have a whole group of investors that scour the market for people in tax lien issues, and they go and buy the house from them or the county for $5,000 or $6,000. Robert Kiyosaki made a fortune on this type of predatorial stuff.
Oh, isn't that the rich dad, the poor dad sort
Yes,
of crap?
go in and look at this stuff where people are going in and trying to buy up people's debt, and if they can't pay, then they get kicked out. It's a crazy thing. But that's, again, why I like to be on these things talking with people, because they can, one, they need to know what exemptions they qualify for, two, how to properly protect their title, and three, how to properly manage their equity position, because a regular person can get the loan and to do the work, and now their house is worth all the money, and then they could sell it and springboard it into retirement or do whatever. But I don't like the way I've seen things happen, and it's going all over the country all the time. Look at Detroit. Detroit used to be a booming area with the property values were great. Then it went horrible because there's no investments in the infrastructure, lead pipes and all this other stuff. And then what's going to happen 5-10 years from now, all of these homes that are like $5,000 right now, because the home in essence are inhabitable, they're going to get invested in and fixed, and now they're going to be back to where $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and the communities that were there are going to be pushed out, while they could have had people come in and show them how to do it and fix it up themselves and make the money themselves.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
It's a cycle, and it's happening everywhere, but there are solutions to it to where the people make the money instead of corporations.
Oh,
Yep.
so I guess if we're to like get rid of gentrification sort of thing, that's gonna have to be a collective effort. It's not just gonna be, oh, we go after like the Trump people, or we go
Yep.
after I don't know, or like Greg Paul, or like there's one other gentrifier that was in New York that's in Texas right now. I think I forget his name.
Oh yeah, they're all
I forget.
they're everywhere. And that's the part that I always want to fight against and help educate people on, is how to avoid those situations. Because you can look at like a city planning, they'll have 1, 3, 5 year, even farther out for businesses that are investing in their communities. And if your community is not actively seeking to get and attract new businesses, how are they going to sustain the city and maintain the roads, maintain the infrastructure? And if that isn't happening, then what's going to happen to that investment? And so you can start to see if those things are happening early on, and investors are watching this stuff. They're watching the trends in the markets. And so that's, again, why I do these lives and talk with people, so they can start looking at it, and they can start going to their city and raising concerns and taking their power back. But yeah, that's what they're going to do. It's a concerted effort collectively. And that's what's scary about these private equity companies buying up all the inventory, because that's how they can control the markets even more and push people on the fringes further and further and further. And it's going to be scary. And if people don't do the stuff now to start putting themselves in a position to fix it and working with people that care about their long-term and short-term goals. But yeah, gentrification, if done correctly, can benefit the community versus a few investors who want to take advantage of that community.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was a big issue in New Jersey, like, because we had a Republican governor named Chris Christie who basically did that, but with a whole bunch of small businesses. He tried to pass a bunch of laws to shut down a bunch of small businesses,
Yes,
and everybody got pissed because, like in New Jersey, like people love their small businesses
of
a lot.
course.
So that was also one of the factors to him no longer being governor. But
Yep. It happens everywhere and it's unfortunate, but that's where we as people can collectively work together to communicate and stop these things from happening. Getting out and voting in every single election and being educated on what's the important topics in those election cycles, and not just the presidential. There's even school board elections, like everything on a local level all the way up to the national level needs to be heavily invested in. And if you are in a county or an area that doesn't have proper representation, because there's a lot of uncontested seats and positions all across this country, and they're getting funded by private interests and APEC and different creepy predatorial things that will put people in that'll help give them a broader stretch of power across the country so that their main efforts and goals can be achieved. And that's another reason why, again, why do you think they want to ban this app? They don't like that regular people like me and you are able to see another random person that is a normal person in different countries sharing liked and similar values. Think about how much the tides have changed in the narrative about what's going on with Israel's genocide on the people of Palestine. Like, this stuff is important. We weren't given information like this. Now we're seeing it. And no, people can't ignore it anymore. And then they start to do research and you find out about the USS Liberty and all of the stuff that's gone into it, different violations, different pacts. And think about like Thorne and their channel where it just got taken down because they were talking about in the residential schools. They don't want our information and us talking about our lived experiences and showing how much we are similar, because then if we can communicate and talk, they can't separate us. And that's why they like to keep people in little boxes, because it makes it to where we'll have infighting. And if we start to see what's similar with each other, we're going to realize who's stirring the pot. And like, wait a minute, it's not my neighbor that's the problem. It's the corporation who's spending millions of dollars to buy these politicians who are going to enact creepy policies that are going to further drive a wedge between people. And then that's the people blaming the people and not the people that are in charge.
yeah, it reminds me. This is so insane. It's in New Jersey. I think like maybe like 50 or 45 minutes from here. Israel had like a whole like event where they tried to sell land of occupied territories to other
Yep.
people. It was so insane. And this is a
Yes.
state where I don't know about like Texas or anything, but I know like in New Jersey, we have a large Palestinian population. So
Yep.
the fact that they're trying to sell occupied territories in a state where it's predominantly Palestinian is insane.
It absolutely
It's
is. It's
completely
deplorable.
insane. And
Yeah.
and there were people that were in attendance to that. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yep. They should be
like
ashamed of
imagine
themselves.
imagine if Russia came into like in the States, it was like, let's sell parts of like Crimea or Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like they would get banned so quickly. Like
Absolutely.
that's
But again,
it's
where follow the money? And that's what I've been trying to tell people on all of these things, because like bringing it even back to the rates and mortgages, right? That is deplorable what they try to do. And I reported that to CFPB because there's no way that they should be trying to do mortgages and try to offer some situations like this for that entire situation. But watch what's about to happen with some of the devastation that happened with the hurricanes and floods, because it's about data that can be manipulated. So you're gonna have a bunch of people that are not able to have a job because the jobs are gone, because the whole entire towns are wiped out. And all of this stuff's going to work together for narratives on the TV. Watch how they start to try to spin this for the election cycle and everything else. All of this stuff followed the money.
Oh
And
no, Trump is gonna spin this as, this
yeah,
is like the Democrat. This is what happens when Democrats are in charge,
yeah, because
and
we have
he's
control
gonna
over
take.
the weather. Yeah, and
Oh no, I'm gonna gentrify the Appalachia now. Like New
yep,
York is not enough.
exactly.
I'm gonna take over the Appalachia. Like him and his father gentrified New York and New Jersey.
Yes,
I don't know if people know that, but
yep,
that's how they got their money. They kicked out a lot of the Black and
yep,
Latinx populations in like Harlem and Bronx and stuff, and that's how
yep.
they made their money
Yes,
by
it's
doing exactly
disgusting.
that.
That
Yeah,
is he's the perfect picture of mediocre white dude. Fat, diaper wearing, crapping dork, racist, idiot, criminal, adjudicated sex pest. Like, I cannot believe anybody would vote for that clown. But you have people out here who will. And it's all based on
no,
that fear and manipulation that we were talking about earlier. Who profits from your fear? And when you look at that, it lowers your cognitive ability. And if you look at their message, it's all about separation. Like what they did to the Haitian uh, immigrants who were
immigrants.
here,
Yeah,
that was a deplorable thing. And I made a post about this. Like, look at the plaque on the Statue of Liberty where it's asking them to bring us your downtrodden and bring it to our shores. Like, we're here to help. Like, should we just go ahead and remove that? Like, everybody here, especially the people that look like me, are here because of immigration. We're not natural citizens of this country. And so
yeah.
to be mad and use the immigration as a political talking point, as some kind of threat and danger, is disingenuous. Our country is built by immigrants. It is sustained by immigrants. When you see that undocumented workers paid in almost 100 billion into our economy in one every year and don't get that money back through taxes, yet corporations get over 100 billion a year in subsidies from our government, who's the real welfare queens? When you have
Right.
Walmart getting huge corporate subsidies, yet then not paying their employees enough, and they have a big section on this. But again, the immigrants, they want to make it as a problem, right? And
Right.
it's a fake problem. First of all, it's embarrassing, especially when we're talking about like the Mexican and population here, especially in Texas. It's like, dude, this was Mexico before it was Texas, and it was Spain
Yeah.
before that. Like, when I see racist dudes telling people to go back to their country, it's like, you go back. This was their stuff first. Like, all this pride on Irish time, like this.
That's what like yeah, that's I'm sorry not to interrupt, but that's what like that's what like actually my mom said like St. Patrick. My mom said that, oh, everybody's celebrating St. Patrick's Day. They're like, oh yay, we're white. Like that's what she says.
Yes,
And she's like the most like proud American citizen ever. And even she's
yes.
like, this is proud.
But that's the part where it's all about fear, right? Because this is the truth. A lot of people are talking about like they're worried about Social Security being insolvent. Want to know a quick way to fix any solvency issues with Social Security, which is all a farce? But think about this. Imagine if we made it easier for people to immigrate to our country and pay into the Social Security. Let's say they do for the first 10 years in this country, you have to pay an extra tax into Social Security because they're over 18. And now you have all of these people moving into our country who want that opportunity, who then, say, for 10 years have to pay like a little bit extra into Social Security. Well, great. Now all of a sudden you have all this influx of people who are contributing, because a lot of people were talking about like the bans on abortion as a ways to kind of help with the workforce that's diminishing, but that's disgusting. It's a violation of people's rights to privacy and to a birthing person's ability to make a decision that should be private with their doctor. But again, that fixes that concern when they're like, well, we need more people born to build, fill the machine. Well, that takes 18 years before that person really is ever going to work. So why don't we open to more immigration who can work right now and contribute right now? It's
Well,
all a fake thing to get people afraid.
yeah, well, unfortunately, there's people, even in New Jersey, and I guess I bet in Texas too, there's all these anti-immigration people that like protest at refugee asylums, which is so
Yep.
dumb. And
It's
then
because
like,
they're being activated with fear.
also,
Yep. They've been told that immigrants are taking their jobs. Their jobs aren't being taken by immigrants. Their jobs are being sent out by greedy corporations offshore in tax shelters. And we're extrapolating labor from places like China and India, where we can pay them $2 an hour instead of a living wage here in the United States. And then we can get the regular people mad at each other saying it's immigrants that are taking jobs and not the greedy 1% that are selling our jobs and our information overseas.
Right, like Greg Abbott, and like like Alex
Mr.
Jones. Like Alex Jones, I found out from a documentary. He's son of a dentist. The guy's not poor.
Yes,
He was never poor. He was
yes,
the son of a dentist who went on like tech, I guess like some news channel on Texas. He was like the random like crazy conspiracy guy, and
yep.
nobody took him seriously when he first started.
Yeah, he's a joke.
I don't
He's
know
an idiot. Now he's in trouble and he's going to have to sell off everything. And I'm glad. I love that for him.
Yeah.
But that's where, again, this app helps bridge the gap that used to be between people with information. And that's why I think they're making an effort to try to get rid of it. Because think about like when this app really was popular in 2019, 2020, through the pandemic and through the murder of George Floyd and all these other things, you start to have people come together and research and learn, and you start to see all these things, and then people are building community, and that terrifies power structures because they are built on control and fear. And then you start to see regular people as just regular people and that eat the same foods, like the same video games and the same movies. And then it's harder to other them and be like, oh, it's immigrants. It's like, no, it's my buddy Carlos, or it's my buddy, whatever. And they're not immigrants. They're just people who want a place to live. And
Yeah.
and that fear goes away. And now when politicians want to push fear and control, they get called out on it.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Yep.
It's so dumb. Like yeah, it's so dumb. And what's even dumber is like this state that I'm living in right now. No offense, it's becoming as much of a circus as Texas or Floridian politicians
Yes.
are. Because I swear, every month, like either in New York or New Jersey, like somebody gets indicted for something, like
Yep.
fraud or some other dumb stuff, and it's ridiculous. It's like it's ridiculous. It's almost like this is like a joke to
Yep.
these people.
But that's
I
why,
don't know.
again, going back to what you want to do is in investing in your career and your education into psychology, because you see all this drama now, people are going to need to heal from that in the future. So you're doing the
Yeah.
right thing and doing it now so that when it's your turn to come out here and be able to talk, you're coming from a totally different lived experience to talk towards what people are going through. Because imagine people on the other side who just wanted a chance at America, wanted to believe in this dream that they've been told, wanting a fresh start, and then they come here and absolutely get berated and chided for being here. That's devastating. Now you're going to be able to be a
Yeah.
person that's going to be able to bridge that gap and make them feel welcome and comfortable and safe to share their concerns and fears and help them heal along that journey.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of a nice way of putting. Yeah, thank you. That's like a nice way of putting it. I think that's also, I guess, I guess doing like all the magic stuff and the
Yep,
spiritual stuff, it goes hand in hand with what I do.
absolutely.
I think there's a saying that says like magic is just spicy psychology, and I kind of agree with that. Part of
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, it's a
Part,
self-empowerment.
yeah, that's why I guess now like, and I know that's why there's such a paranoia, I guess, with like magic and like spirituality and stuff from the Christians, because it's empowerment,
Yep.
and they're the same people to support like Trump and all these like dumb
Yes.
politicians too.
It's the fear factor because, again, if you look at who's the majority of that throughout the history of time in persecution, it was usually, especially if you look at in ancient Greece too, in different practices, it was usually done by disenfranchised or unempowered foreigners and women. And of course, that the are going to attack that because it's them getting their agency back, and they're going to demonize it throughout history. And then you see through even in the 16 and 17, 1800s to this day where witches are prosecuted. And what are they doing? They're hanging out with themselves, doing whatever they want to do. But because other people are worried about that, they're going to try to go and attack it and call it bad and evil. But I think that because the way that the church, and I don't know if you know this about me, before I deconstructed from all that, I went to school because I thought I was going to be an apologetic. And
Um,
I was big into Christianity, studying Reformed systematic theology. I was a Calvinist. It was bad. And then I learned when I started to go to therapy 12 years ago and learned love and understanding how to love and heal from my trauma, that immediately you start to identify that patriarchy and Christianity, it's absolutely in conflict with love. And everybody wants to say it is, but there's no way that you can say you love something and subsequently subjugate them and make them lesser. So when you look at certain organized and most organized religion where they put women under a certain pedestal and they can't speak, they can't teach, yet they're good enough to birth the savior, that's trash. And so I started to look at it, I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't line up. This doesn't line up. And because I have the education and studying the scriptures and the canonization process and all this other stuff, it equipped me for a unique opportunity to see this for what it was. And I'm like, I'm not standing for this. And I break free from it. And that's why I love it when other people from different positions get into the field, because you're not going to come at it from a bent position that automatically thinks women are hysterical. No, you're going to listen and understand that hormonal balances change and things change and stuff happens and they went through trauma. And the church doesn't want to admit trauma happens. They want women to stay in crazy relationships and they think it's you got to submit to your husband. All this garbage. No love. There's no love there. It's fake love based on control and fear.
yeah. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, that's true. I think I had like, yeah, that's definitely true. I think it's kind of like it's like I had a friend who's like still very religious, but like he told me like the issue was not necessarily like in his opinion, like I'm not completely agreeing, but in his opinion, the issue is not just necessarily the religion itself, but it's how the people carry out the religion, and
Yes.
it's the fact that it was like man-made. That is the issue, and the
Yep.
structures that they created is the issue. Um, which like I kind of agree and also disagree too, because I like obvious like I do like obviously I guess you can probably tell from like the previous slides I do believe in like I do believe there are higher powers
Of
out there.
course.
It's just
Yeah.
I don't think it's just the one higher power.
Right.
Like right, it's multiple of them, and like it's yeah, it's like multiple of them, and they each have their own like level of like
Yeah.
different different like power like abilities and powers and things like that.
And what scares people about that is freedom, because you're not trying to tell other people that only your way is right and the only way to whatever paradise is through your path. And that means the reason why it's so like the way the current structures are based is control of fear. Again, who profits from fear? And when you want to control the masses, you inundate them with this idea and concept of all the good stuff is coming after you die. So on earth, you got to obey masters. You got to do whatever you got to do. You got to believe in this fallacy because love me or else. It's a whole narcissistic abuse cycle that once you start studying it, you'll see in your abnormal psych classes as you continue through psychology in college, you're going to start to see when they start to identify narcissistic behavior, and then go away and look at something where it says the starting pinnacle of their faith-based system is their jealousy. Can't have
Right,
anyone else before me. You can't do this. You can't do these things. But then if they're judged by the same book of laws, they wouldn't make it into the heaven they promised people.
right,
And that's the
right.
part where it's like and then that's where like I have a disagreement with certain people. Like, well, I like this religion, but I don't like this part because of the way people are. But their actions that are the bad people, they're justifying their actions based on the context and actions that they display or have seen in their sacred text. And this goes for most organized big religions, especially Abrahamic. The good take it from there, but it's also a well where the bad comes from. And I don't want to be a part of anything that can justify subjugating people, hurting people for political any type of gain, and or ones that make, especially like when you look at women, anything that seeks to deep and disenfranchise women or take their power away is toxic.
Right, right.
Yep. And that's why, again, going back to like with you, with your education, continue to learn and continue to grow both in your spiritual practice and in your psychology practice, because shadow work is important. And some people conflate what shadow work really is and is it this and that. It's confronting the secrets or the things that we don't want to talk about in public, or we don't want to even admit to ourselves. But again, in psychology and in our practice, that stuff goes hand in hand. And some people might not be able to afford to go to a doctor in the future, but they have an opportunity to where it tells them to challenge their thoughts, to look at these power structures and heal. It's not their fault. They aren't responsible for someone else's actions, and they didn't deserve what happened to them. And heal. Same thing. Like, I'm a guy. Before I got into this, I was a perfect pinnacle for toxic masculinity. And I share that 12 years ago, before I invested in my emotional intelligence, I was great sometimes, but then there's others I wasn't. I had 2 failed marriages before. And that was because I was the problem. I was toxic. No matter what the other people did, I was in control of how I act, react, and communicate. So I'll never try to justify anything. 100% was on me. But again, it goes into these practices. 12 years ago, I started investing in my emotional intelligence. Then about 3 years ago, I started to deconstruct from my faith, which then took my beliefs and my healing to another journey, because I started to take more accountability for my own words, thoughts, and actions. And you start to dive into your own shadow and started doing EMDR therapy and all of these other things to heal from my childhood traumas. Everybody needs to go through this. And see, some people don't like it when someone has healed and it doesn't have shame about talking about their past, because how dare you share that you failed before and have changed and now are super successful, because you shouldn't be talking about that. But I'm going to talk about it. As a guy who has been toxic in my past, I'm going to talk about it so that, one, girls know how to, and women know how to avoid it, and 2, other men can see the changes that need to happen so that they make a change themselves.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, it's, yeah, it's, yeah, I could kind of claim like there. Well, the good thing too is that you kind of, it does seem like you're always like, you don't just say that you grow and you change, you kind of show it, and you kind of talk as if like you have changed. There's like one dude I used to follow here who claims to be a heel narcissist, but then like when he made a mistake about a major case that was going on in New York, it was like a very contentious divorce case. He kind of did he kind of had like a video where he's like I where he said that he's taking down all the videos, but own up to he wouldn't fully own up to why he was taking it down. And
Of
like,
course. That's the part. Time shows if someone's done the work. And like
yeah,
with my partner Monica, we've been together 11 years, or close to 11 years now. And she's baller status. I don't know if you know who my wife is, but Monica is amazing. She's a famous actress lady, and we don't fight. And I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if I hadn't done the work. But I'm also focused on a concept. It's called Kaizen. It's a Japanese concept of like constant self-improvement, but not from a position of lack, but love. I want to be my highest and best for the people around me so that they feel safe to heal. And so that can't happen if I'm not healed. And the signs will show you. I am here to be a conduit for change. And if I hadn't done the work, I wouldn't be able to be here confidently talking about it and having a safe space for people to be themselves and to talk and to share and to correct those things. Because yes, you'll be able to tell real quick if somebody's just talking the game or if they're walking it. Ask them, what are the last 5 books you read? Let's talk to your closest people in your life, and how much have they seen you change? Because if you're doing the same stuff today that you were a year ago, you didn't change. You're stuck a year ago. You're just repeating that year over and over and over until you heal. And it's a journey, and that's the thing that's different too. Sometimes people will make change for a reward. Oh, I did this work so you don't leave me. Nope. The change has to be for themselves and their legacy. And it's not a sprint, it's for the rest of your life. And I love that path and journey, and it's out there for everybody. And that's why I'm, again, when I go back and think about what you're doing for your career, you have lived experiences that give you a unique voice and perspective that's going to be able to talk to people on a level that I won't, because I didn't live your life. And that is so important and is needed. And you need to share that with confidence, because you lived your life. You know what you experienced. You know what you've overcome and what you still need to overcome. But that doesn't mean you're broken or have any lack. It's an opportunity. And you're not responsible for anything that happened to you. It happened to you. So as you continue to share those things, there's no need to be afraid or shame, because again, why be ashamed of what happened to you? And share it and empower people to continue that process and to be able to communicate with each other. And that's why I'm so excited for you to get into your career, because again, you have a unique voice that needs to be heard, needs to be shared, and your story and your position. Don't ever let anyone dissuade you from what you want to do in life. I mean it. And, you're always, I love it when you put your comments and join my lives and stuff, because I'm always here to help and connect with resources. And I'm going to shoot you, because I'm about to have to go to my next appointment at 2. When I'm off the live, I'll shoot you a DM with the information to remind your family member who just lost their job on where they can go to potentially find a connection to get the job. BNI, Business Networking International, and look up a lunch. But I appreciate your time today, and we will talk soon. Bye.